reporting for channel 666 Eyewitness News. What a dilemma. A bicycle flat. Kind of like when you're an artist and you have all this work behind you and then suddenly your brain freezes and you have no more creative ideas. Bicycle flat. Your ideas are flat. Hey, not the best analogy, but hey, it's part of the show, right? First thing when you encounter a bicycle flat is to disconnect the brake. Kind of like losing your inhibition when forming a creative idea. You've got to remove the brake. And that's not always as easy as you think it is. Or sometimes it is. The brake hasn't been removed, inhibition hasn't been removed, let the creativity flow. One thing you must always remember is put it in the gear so the chain is at its lowest cog. Does that make sense? Let's take a look. Oh, what do you know? You just missed it completely. Talk about bad camera angles. Alright, tripod, you've got to learn to bend with it. Kind of like sometimes when you have a creative idea and you kind of want to do it, but you don't have all the resources. Well, I should have planned ahead. You know what? This makes no sense. It's not really part of changing the bicycle, but we can always do it again. Not bicycle, bicycle flat. But those who don't have a bike, it doesn't matter. Sometimes when you're trying to change a flat, it's usually easy to turn the bike upside down. In this way, you don't have to worry about the bike falling on top of you, and you also don't have to worry about unable to remove the wheel. And how does this relate to daily life? Well, it's all about perspective. We need to have a different perspective on things. Sometimes if you're going to look at things straight up, it's not going to always make sense. So you've got to find a good perspective. See the varying perspectives? Now, what we're going to do is completely remove the wheel. How does this bear relevance to creativity? How does removing a wheel bear relevance? Well, maybe it doesn't necessarily bear a whole lot of relevance. Relevance? It could bear relevance, but not necessarily relevance. But the relevance that we're going to try to imply here is that sometimes we have to look at the big picture. We need to dissect things, and we need to remove things, and we need to get to the source of the problem. And what is the source of the problem? I mean, is there a problem? I don't know. Is there a problem? Should I be wearing gloves for this? Oh, tough. Very tough. Oh. As you can see, the mistake here was not wearing gloves. Sometimes you've got to get your hands dirty, you know? And sometimes being creative, you do get your hands literally dirty, you know? Because not everything is going to be clean and fresh-faced. There isn't going to be any kind of makeup person making up your face. You literally got to clean yourself. And, well, that makes absolutely no sense what I just said, but it sure eats up airtime, doesn't it? Next, you kind of take the wheel out and insert one of these clippy things and kind of slice the tire. Some tires are harder to take off than other tires. But in this case, this tire is easy to take off now, isn't it? Now, a lot of you might be wondering, what is the purpose of showing a video about changing a flat? I don't know what the purpose is, because how detailed are these instructions? Then again, when you use how... Let's edit that for a second. Obviously something fell out of the wheel, and we're just going to pretend that we didn't see that. Because the last thing we need to give is bad instructions. So now, as you can see, whoops, I've forgotten my instructions. It's extremely important to remove the tube thing, because it gets caught when you're trying to remove the tire. And how does this relate to real life, many of you might be wondering? Well, simple things are actually quite simple. Yes, folks, maybe not as simple. thing you need to know or do is take a damp cloth and kind of run the cloth along the tire to make sure that there are no glass pieces that are going to re-puncture your new tube. So that's always good to do. Kind of like when you're editing your sketch film, it's always good to kind of polish up what you're doing. Take a look at what the final result might be. Doesn't seem like there are any glass pieces, but it doesn't hurt to check many times now, does it? So this is the bicycle tube. Sometimes it's a good idea to put a little bit of air into this tube. How informative is this? You tell me. No, don't tell me. Getting the tube to sit inside the tire is probably the hardest thing in the world. No, it's not. Getting a network to air your sketch show is probably one of the hardest things in the world. Not changing your tire flat. After all, networks are one thing. All they really care about is money. And what sells. Gone are the days, when people used to actually look for talent. Now if something is a 10-second little gimmick, oh yes, let us hear that. If it's got a cheap laugh, let's go ahead and let's hear that. As I mentioned, today's riddle is how long is it going to take Miss Poopee Doodee to put this rim tube inside the tire? Do you really want to see how long it takes? Finally, the tube is in. Now, how long did putting the tube inside the tire really take? Definitely not as long as it would take for a network to air Miss Divine's to you. Definitely not as long as that. So we're talking about a couple minutes, we're talking about hours, we're talking about time. I suppose the next thing we will do in terms of fixing a flat is just trying to set the tube inside the tire. It's always good to do that because that's just the way it is, and I believe it is set. Well, I guess there is only one way to find out. Next step is going to be putting air inside a tire. Kind of like a creative idea. For instance, a Scottish Girl musical, or some sort of monologue that Miss Divine has written. It's got to have substance. It's got to have something inside to keep it up. In this case, with the tire, it's air. Unfortunately, there are a lot of shows out there that just have air. Nothing really solid. Nothing really with substance. Nothing really with passion. Just air. And it's all like a bunch of balloons that float all around, and eventually they disappear, they come and go, but all the balloons look the same and are the same because they're just filled with air. I wonder why people like things that are filled with air. It's about time we kind of made a little note. Never mind the little note, let's put some air in this tire. How much is too much air? Who knows? But we'll find out. Back to my point. A lot of things in a lot of shows, in a lot of music, is filled with air. It's not often you find something that's filled with passion, filled with good characters, filled with a great storyline. It's certainly not that often we find things like that. Things are just filled with air. And here I thought the only thing that would be filled with air is a bicycle tire. But no. Things that are filled with air seems to be what's in demand. Or maybe they aired so many things that are filled with air, people kind of got brainwashed and liked it, and they thought that's what's in demand when it's really not. Who knows, Who knows? It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, I ask you? The next step is putting the tire back onto the bike. This can be a very tricky thing, as you kind of have to incorporate things in such a way, and you have to make sure that the bike is set correctly. Either that or it could be a giant disaster. And let's see how long this is going to take us. Did it really take that long to put the tire back? Yeah, it did. That's why some of these clips got a little bit more fast forward. Because I didn't really want to bore you with how is someone putting their tire back on. You know, may not be the best footage. Nevertheless, now that the tire appears to be on, we shall now try to fasten the wheel. Which means make sure that it's set properly. And now we'll go ahead and close this automatic snap thing. Not all bikes have this snap thing. Some bikes have a screw thing. Ugh. Ugh. Oh my god. Ugh. Whew. Now what's harder? Getting a show to air, getting a sketch film to air in the theater, or putting the tire back on with the chain? What's dirtier? What's dirtier? You know what? Getting your show on network, we don't really know what kind of dirty tricks and dirty things people do to get their show and their stuff on network TV. The world is a crazy, evil, corrupted place. After you reconnect the brakes, the bicycle is back to new, and your tire is functioning great.